Burls, pine burls in particular, make really neat woodworking projects. And they're relatively easy to come by, and they're not very expensive, not compared to your hardwood burls. So they're an attainable resource for a small woodworker. But there are difficulties in taking something like this and turning it into a tabletop blank. Due to their very nature, usually these things have got some embedded rocks, bark, nastiness, very hard on your saws. So get a stiff, big wire brush, try to work it out of there. Go in a couple of directions and get it as clean as you possibly can. Once you have it clean, you need to decide how you're going to use it. Are you going to use it whole and intact? Are you going to split it? How far we split it? That one over there, I took about 3 inches off the base, giving me a nice big flat circle. This one, I would like thinner. So what I'm contemplating doing is trying to slice it again with the chainsaw, which would be nice because that'll give me the opportunity to then reuse the base. Okay, what I'm going to try to do is take the saw, just miss that clamp, go straight down, and miss the clamp at the bottom. This could be interesting. Certainly going to be loud. So working with one of these is the same as working with any hand plane. It's just louder, cruder, uglier, not as precise, way faster. So I don't actually need to get this level in reference to the table. I'll do that later. What I need to do is simply get it flat, so I have a flat surface to reference from. Start the low spot. The next part of surfacing is actually kind of fun. And I've got this monstrous old radial arm drill press. And what I'm going to do is set the depth and lay my piece out there, and then with the largest Forstner bit I have, which I think is 2 1/4, 2 1/2, I'm going to go ahead and flatten the back side. That is, bring everything down to the same level. Here we go. there it is, all done, and I've hit it with the belt sander. So now I have my piece, which is basically a slab. This is the working theory. That's a juniper root ball. I'm contemplating using this as the base. That's the piece that got cut out. Boring out the center. I'll have to square the top. Bore out the center. Put it in here. This is what's going to be the base. And you can see I've taken and smoothed over my hard lines from where I flatten the surface. It doesn't need to be flat right here. Simply flat on the other side. And now I'm going, after using a sidewinder with a flap disc and taking all the oxidation off, I'm going around with a 100 grit and starting the process of taking all the swirl off. I've also used that same flap disc sidewinder to ease the edge of this, because I want it to look a little more like, I don't know, like a toadstool upside down. So that helps smooth that edge out. Just takes a long time, doesn't it, buddy? Yeah, goofball. And I've decided that this is the Toadstool table, if such a thing deserves a name. So, rounding all of the edges, softening all of the edges. I'll leave the top obviously flat. I still have this saw cut to deal with, and I'll probably carve in and around, and I'll shape it with the sidewinder. But that produces too much dust when I'm here with the little guy, even with the fans running. Smiles. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the booth and spray a little poly tonight. Let this stuff soak in. There's always a danger after you've slabbed it like this and exposed so much raw wood that you'll shrink and crack. So I do try to minimize that as much as I can. So I'll give a bunch of stuff a spray, and then of course we're done for the day. Can you say bye-bye? No? Because we're not done yet, right? And because you want something. So still working on the Toadstool table. Finally decided on a name for the thing. And this was that chainsaw cut mark that was in it. So I've just taken it and reshaped it. I'm trying to preserve as much of the crisp edge as I can, and then contouring in through here, because this is where that rot was. But the top side, trying to preserve as much as I could, shaping with the angle grinder. And then on the back side, sort of where we get that Toadstool name, everything is rounded over and smooth. And it's taking forever. A lot of sanding going on. This is the base for the Toadstool. And I really like not only the shape within the wood, but I like the shape of the wood itself. Downside is these massive diseased pitch pockets. They are really going to react with the finish. So I'll have to try to scrub it out with turpentine, let it harden, and probably mist it with shellac in an attempt to seal it. Then I can go over the top of it with some poly. Because since this will be the base, it'll take some abuse, it'll have some feed on it. It needs to have a couple of coats, be quite strong. Installing the legs on the Toadstool table. This is what I'm working with. I'm going to inset that in. I'm going to try to do it as tight as possible. Then I'll pour epoxy into the base with the hopes that I can basically permanently lock it in there. And I'll use shims at the bottom of the hole to get the top of the hole level. I'll just set a temporary board up on top and level the whole thing off the top of my table saw. Matching however out of level the table saw is, I'll just match that up here. So that's the basic idea. And then of course the top of it is sitting over there, and that'll come up on top of here, and that'll be a touch trickier. This I can pour up from the bottom, put a big lag bolt in the middle, and those I don't want screws through them, so I'm still working on it. This root ball here from a juniper tree. It came out of Ruby Reservoir in Alder, Montana. It's some flotsam, some driftwood, as it were. So, should be good. Now all I have to do is bore that out. I'm thinking 2 inches, half the thickness of this. I want enough for the epoxy to really lock it in place, but then I also want enough wood that when I screw to it from the bottom, sort of a happy medium. That's the plan. So that's got the vast majority of it. The rest I'll clean up with a chisel. There it is on the ground. Sort of a complicated form. I bet I leave it just the way it is. I still have to come up with a way to mount the top. And I'm thinking is probably recessing all the way around the same depth, then maybe half an inch in, then pouring pool epoxy completely filling, surrounding that area. Who knows? We'll see.